Okay, welcome to episode number 16 of the Soul Rollers Podcast. My name is Jackson Gage. I'm here with my co-host William Dennis, and yeah, everything's going good. And we got a good topic to talk about today. The topic we're going to talk about is the mindset behind, you know, getting your next belt. Actually, going from white belt to blue belt. William is about to get his blue belt pretty soon here, and he has some thoughts on that he wants to share. Before we get into that, I wanted to share a story that kind of leads into that. But first, I just want to give a couple of shout outs, man. We every week we put these out. We get people hitting us up, and we appreciate it. I appreciate all the feedback we get. You know, the love we get. People sending messages. And just talking about what they're hearing on the podcast. So it's cool, man. So I just wanted to shout out Dorothy, always supporting everything. So, she doesn't even do jujitsu and she's freaking digging the podcast. So I really appreciate that. Um, my old training partner, I've mentioned before, but he just hit me up about episode 15, Carl Phelps. Thanks, Carl. Appreciate it. cwphelps.com. Steve Campbell. Steve is said he's listening every week and he's digging it. He's somebody that it's cool when you run into people who love jujitsu as much as you do. And he actually said the reason why he's digging the podcast is because of the passion that we have for jujitsu. He connects with that because he shares that same passion. So that's the kind of people that I figure are going to be listening to this podcast. So yeah, and then my another training partner named his name is Nickname. So Nickname, shout out to you, man. Thanks for listening. I got word that you were sharing some good vibes about the podcast when we weren't even there, when I wasn't there. So I appreciate that, man. That word of mouth is powerful. So thank you everybody who's listening, and let's get right into it here. So before we get into the thoughts of you becoming a blue belt, I have this story about some wisdom a brown belt shared. And so anyhow, last night we've been doing these open mats on Tuesday where we drill. It was just me and this guy Steve that I mentioned. We're just drilling for 2 hours, and a couple people catch wind that we're doing it and they want to come in and roll. So a couple of our other training partners come in, and it's me and three other blue belts, and all three of them are, you know, can get me. So I'm in there. I'm the one who's getting smashed the most out of the four of us, which is good. That's how you learn. And so we're in there doing our rolls. We drilled and then we start rolling last night, and uh, we're getting our rolls in, and then this brown belt who trains with us was driving by, and he saw that we were there, so he decided to come in. And this brown belt, his nickname is Super Strong. He's a 44-year-old dude, 160 pounds, rock solid, and he's freaking good, man. And he goes hard as a motherfucker. And you would never know. I think I've mentioned him before, man. You would never know when you see the guy that he will whoop your ass and he will have no mercy on you. You know what I mean? I don't think he understands go easy. And super nice dude, man. But like I'm saying, he looks like a guy that be walking out of Wall Street, and he wants to go meet you for tea or some shit. And I found out last night he's an ex wrestler. And anyhow, I rolled with him and he fucked me up. He whooped my ass left and right. And and it was one of those. I mean, I guess every episode here, I'm gonna just mention my ass getting beat. It's just fucking how it goes. But this was a good ass whooping too, man. I'm getting fucking forearmed across the nose and fucking, a knee to the side of the head and just my arm yanked with full strength. It was a good one, man. And then I watched him though. I watched him roll with the other guys who always get me, and he just toyed with them and beat their ass too. Even my buddy who's about to get his purple, he just whooped up on him. And afterward, my buddy who's about to get his purple was like, "Hey, I needed that because my head's been getting a little bit big in here, and I needed that ass whooping." So that just made my day a lot better. And we sat down afterward with the brown belt, and I was asking him, I was just bullshitting with him, kind of trying to pull some wisdom from him. And he was saying, he was like, "Man, if I could put levels on skill sets in jujitsu, 1 through 10, he said 4 or 5 is black belt, and then the levels go up from there. So when you get to 4 or 5, you're a fucking black belt, and then it goes up." And he was just explaining how he goes to these other schools and he'll roll with black belts or sometimes other brown belts, and they do to him what he did to us. And I can't. That just blows my fucking mind. The levels, because this guy, I mean, he manhandled me. And then he's telling me how he just gets manhandled to where he said he gets in positions where he doesn't even know what the fuck to do. The guys whoop his ass so bad, and then that's just even more humbling. Like, wow, we're just babies in this shit. You know what I mean? And you just got to remember it. You're never going to be the best, you know, it's a constant growth. And then the other training partner, Steve, brought up, he was like, yeah, I remember when I was a white belt and these blue belts were like hitting these triangles on me and shit. And I was like, whoa, these guys are so good, man. And now I realized they were just blue belts, fiddle fucking trying to figure out how to do a triangle, and still just beginning their journey. And it's kind of never ending. And I think that story leads into what you were telling me earlier about you're about to get your blue belt and your mindset behind that, and how you find some doubt behind that. And not sure if I'm ready to get my blue belt type of shit, or go ahead if you want, man. Go ahead and go into that, and we can get on that topic.
Well, I think like your story kind of represents like ideas in life where, I don't know if it's you're never going to be the best, like comparative to like all these different people in jiu-jitsu, but there's different versions of your best in jiu-jitsu, if that makes sense. So it's not about a comparison to anyone else. It's about a comparison of how do you know what is your best, and all these people that you roll with, like that brown belt, it gave you a different viewpoint of what you are capable of growing into. It's like revealing your own potential and the levels that you can stretch yourself to, because that's what happened for him to get where he's at. He had to stretch himself and probably go past a lot of hurdles and doubts and blocks that he had internally to grow himself to that point. And then, jiu-jitsu constantly gives you truth by showing you and exposing you to the level that you're at, and where, it's not where you want to be at times, or how do I even get there? Or it just exposes you to greater questions, which I think is the most important thing in life. Is, you want to ask bigger and better questions, and that makes your life go to another level. Same thing with jiu-jitsu. It's like, now that you saw the level he's at, it stretches you to, a broader perspective of what you're capable of. And that's kind of, I think, why I think this topic about you already being at blue belt and then me starting to get there, getting close to it, is something that is going to be relatable to a lot of white belts that have stuck out this white belt experience, right? Because wasn't there one episode we talked about like a certain amount of white belts stop?
Yeah, I'm sure we talked about it, but that's a good topic to continue, just to continue on, because I'm sure we'll have white belts listening.
Exactly.
Blue belts quit too, man. So
yeah, and then there's all those memes about blue belts like disappearing or something like that. And one of the guys I was talking to, who was a blue belt, he was saying how it's like it almost levels up. There's like new kind of pressure on you about like, well, I can't have white belts submit me, and I got to keep up with the other blue belts. And there's a lot of comparison, and I think that's the human condition more than it is jiu-jitsu, because jiu-jitsu is just jiu-jitsu. It's like train, learn, grow, and progress. It's simple, but the human condition is like complex, and ego and all the other stuff, right? And that's what you're talking about. Getting humbled by an ass kicking is reminding you like, hey, you have room to grow there. This is where you're really at. And it's the same thing with a tournament. It really exposed me to what works, what doesn't work, what areas I was limited in, because now I'm trying to add these sweeps in. And I got a really good sweep yesterday. It was actually very fluid, and like I got mount from it and it felt good. That was like one of the first sweeps that actually felt like, oh, I think that's how it's supposed to feel when you do a sweep. Most of them are all clunky and weird. I'm like, that felt terrible. What am I doing? It's like trying to learn how to walk or something. Yeah. But last night it felt because he was giving me the resistance, and I had the right timing where we rolled right into it and I got right to mount. And I'm like, wow, that felt different. I don't know if I could repeat that today, but we'll see. But I really think there's like this idea of comparison, these different things that we bring to the experience that throws us off. And I think that's what I'm starting to have is, man, like starting to feel like, okay, like when I'm here, I'm still a white belt. And so people have certain expectations maybe, or maybe that's just something I did. And at the tournament, I even checked myself and I'm like, all right, don't compare your belt to theirs or your ears to theirs. Like, oh, my ear's a little more jacked up than theirs. So maybe that means something. It's like, just don't have any judgments. Just let go of judgments. I think I heard a quote today. It said, judge less, feel, and like feel more, like feel good more. So it's like the less you judge, the better you feel.
So what are your feelings? How are you thinking? Where is your mind around you getting your blue belt soon? Like, what do you feel about that? If
I'm
your skill
definitely
level, your mindset, where you're at, all that. How do you feel about that? And we go into that.
I'm definitely excited. I think it's like I can see the progression and what led me to get here. And but I definitely feel like just like when I went to the tournament, there was doubts, like, man, am I ready? Can I do this? And I think that's just part of the human condition. Like you're gonna have doubts through every aspect of your life all the time because that's what your brain's wired to do. But the apprehension that I'm starting to think of and feel is like I was looking when I rolled last night, I was looking around and I don't know, maybe in my head, I kind of have some standards that I want to perform at when I go and train. And there's some nights you don't do it, you don't meet them.
Lots of nights.
Yeah. And you just kind of walk out going, oh, crap. And then there's other nights where you just kind of show up and you're just there to kind of go through the motions. Like you're kind of out of it. You're just like, ugh, you go through the roles, you defend, and you get through it. And it's like, I don't like those nights more than anything, I think, because it's just like, no, get your head in the game and really kind of put something together. Last night was good. Like I got that sweep, and that's what I've been working on. And it was some good rolls. I was tired, but I was looking around and just thinking, like, man, you know, uh, am I a blue belt level? Am I rolling? But it's really hard to know, like, how other people are experiencing you as you roll with them.
Yeah.
And so I want to be, a lot of these other blue belts I roll with, some of them are very good, and I'm like, dang, but I don't know what their experience is when they roll with me. So it's just a very, like, I do feel like I start to doubt or question my abilities. And especially when you're trying new moves, you're trying to add the sweeps. It's like, I'm not getting many attacks. I'm not going for many subs right now because I'm trying to like go for the sweeps first. And if I kind of mess around the whole roll trying to get in position to do the sweep and don't get it, I didn't get any submissions. And so I'm like, was that still a good roll? I don't know. And so it just kind of creeping in there. I can feel it coming because it's, very exciting, but it's also comes with like, man, internal pressure, I guess, if that's the right way. I don't know if you've experienced any of that when you got yours or.
Yeah. Yeah. I could speak on that a little bit. First off, I have this perspective on the blue belt that I've kind of created in my mind here, that it's not, and I think I said it on another episode, this is a fucking original quote right here. So motherfuckers can write this down and put it in a meme if you like. Put Jackson Gage at the bottom of that bitch. It's not, a blue belt is not a christening. It's a challenge. You know what I mean? The mindset is I'm being christened. I'm given an award for fucking becoming a blue belt. No, motherfucker, you've made it to where the coach is like, okay, next challenge, motherfucker. A blue belt doesn't say you're at, oh, you're at this level, you're good. You're good enough to be this. Now, I think it's more like when I received it, my mindset was like, okay, now I got to live into this motherfucker. Now I'm challenged. Like I feel like as a coach, you give a guy that, you're like, all right, motherfucker, you've proven to me that you can take on the next challenge. You don't have to, there's no expectations of you because of this. The only expectation is you have the grit and the toughness to take on the challenge. And I think what's going on in your mind is you're seeing that challenge. The challenge is being given to you now, and your mind is trying to wrap yourself around it. I'm being challenged. I'm not, at first you think when I get my blue belt, I'll be really good. No, motherfucker, you're still going to suck. It's just going to be tougher once you get your blue belt, because now you have a bigger challenge. You have to hold your ground against these white belts who a month before, it's okay. You're white belt, they're white belt. Now you're a blue belt, and that's not ego. It's just the way the system works. You got to hold your ground. Your coach is expecting you. You can hold your ground against these motherfuckers now, right? And then you got to see these purple belts, and that's your next challenge. When your coach thinks you're ready for that, your coach is going to say, next challenge, motherfucker, but in between that, your mind is just, the real challenge comes. You get your blue belt. I got mine. I was like, fuck, I'm not a fucking blue belt. Why the fuck did I get this? What do I do now? And you start realizing more how much you suck, how much you have to learn, how much you have to grow, and you have to push yourself. That's why a lot of blue belts quit, because motherfuckers get that challenge and they're like, oh man, I'm not as good as I thought I was. Fuck it. I'll just quit and say I'm a blue belt in jiu-jitsu, which ain't shit in the big picture of things. Like that brown belt was saying, a level 5 is black belt in a 1 to 10. in jiu-jitsu, and then you start getting good after that, or I've heard black belts say you don't start learning jiu-jitsu until you get your black belt, you know, and that's some deep ass, heavy ass shit. And so we put so much weight on these things like a blue belt, when really it's just, your coach Victor is like, William can take on this next challenge. And now it's up to you to fucking have the grit to go in there and freaking learn, and put yourself up against these guys and be humble. You have to humble yourself even more when you get your blue belt. You got to humble yourself, because now there's other blue belts who are going to whoop up on you, and you're going to have to learn from them. And the process continues, and the adventure keeps going. But it's not a christening. It's not an award. It's not like, oh, you're here now. It's, here's your next challenge, motherfucker. Put it around your waist and prove that you can live into it, and that's kind of the way I've had to perceive it, to wrap my mind around it.
I definitely see that. And I felt that even like, maybe it has, what comes up for me is like identity, right? Like we're having experiences and we're forming an identity based on how we see ourselves perform and interact in different experiences and circumstances in life. So like I was given a white belt and I showed up a certain amount of time frames differ, but between academies or whatever, but you develop your skill sets over a couple of years, and then you're asked to step into a new role, so it's like 0 to 1. Like 0 is nothing, right? Like, and I wonder what other areas of our life, like when I was a cop, I had an identity as a cop and I built a skill set. And I remember about 3 years into being a cop, I kind of felt like no matter what came across the radio, I'd know how to handle it. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And I just remember that I was walking in my car and I had that feeling, that understanding. I was like, holy shit, that's that feeling. Like I was like, man, I was carrying my bag with all my gear in it. And I'm like, dude, whatever happens today, like I'm ready to handle it. I was trained like to really know what to do. And I think that's also like a confidence I want to build, not so much as an identity, because that's, that was kind of a limited version of that when I wasn't really learning personal development back then. But it really is something about that, like building a confidence in yourself through sacrifice, hard work, growth, 1% better every day type mindset, and really just letting that container of the belt kind of expose you to your flaws and weaknesses. And as you grow, you get to see those change and shift. And blue belt's like calling you into a greater potential or container, so that you could step out and apply the white belt skills that you have at a different level until you can grow into that level. And one thing I always kind of struggled with as after I left being a cop was like, okay, well, now I know nothing. I'm stepping out into the world. Now I got to do like a whole new career and I don't even know what I'm doing. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. All these skills and stuff that I used to be, a cop don't stop working. They're still there. I still have that experience and that knowledge base. It's just, how do I apply it differently? And in the circumstance that requires me to apply it, maybe from home or from wherever I am, in a different role in life. And I wonder if that's true for jiu-jitsu as well. Like stepping into a blue belt, it just requires you to take the knowledge you built as a white belt, and now you're going to apply it in a different circumstance and container to grow into like a new experience and level of understanding in jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, that sounds about right, man. You just have a bigger container now that you need to fill.
But it's weird how we start comparing ourselves and we kind of forget, like, dude, I've put in a lot of work to get here. It's not an accident. Like, it's not my coach made a mistake and picked me. It's like, wait, randomly pulled his name out of a hat and I'll just give him this belt. It's like, obviously I've done the work,
Yeah.
To get to this promotion. And it is somewhat of like an acknowledgement of the hard work, I guess. But again, it's just like that gold medal. Like Monday, that thing didn't really matter anymore. It was fun to do on Saturday, like, yay, I got the medal. And then I went to class on Monday and it's like, hey, let's get into this study. Let's go. And it's not like I can take that to class with me and get extra submissions if I wear it or something.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
It was another thing that was funny last night. The brown belt I was drilling with, we were talking about like sports where you can, buy a really nice bike and you can be faster because it's like a super upgraded bike. But in jiu-jitsu, it's like, you can't buy like a really nice gi and get extra submissions from it. It's like, no, it might look really cool, but other than that, it's it's your knowledge base, your experience, your abilities that really shine through in this sport. And I think that's pretty powerful too. So that might be off topic though. Sorry.
No, it's on, I mean, wherever you want to take it, it's fine. Yeah, it's all on you. That's
Yeah.
the beautiful thing about jujitsu, there's no shortcuts in the game of jujitsu whatsoever. There's no way you can get good quick. There's nothing you can buy as many DVDs as you want, as many, I guess we don't buy DVDs anymore, but you can buy as many, you can stream as many instructionals as you want. This shit helps, but you just got to put in the work. You got to get in there. Like I've been finding that drilling gets you ahead. If you do a lot of drilling on the shit that you like to use, that's definite way to at least move faster along the path. A lot of drilling, and then whatever you've been drilling. What we've been doing, man, that's been really helpful is we drill for an hour on shit we want to work on, and then the next hour we do positional training with whatever we were drilling. You know what I mean? So then we'll go live on it and try to find the holes in it. And and then you take that to class the next night and you use it during your rolls. And the shit works at a little bit higher percentage when you fucking go at it from that angle, but it's just whether or not you want to put in the work, go to class when there's no class and put a couple hours in just drilling. You got to really enjoy it, which I do. If I can go every day and do that shit, I would. You know what I mean? But yeah, there's no magic pill, man, for jujitsu. And that's the beautiful thing about it. And that's where the humility comes in. You got to put in the work. And even if, you work your ass off, you put all the work in, you're still gonna you're still gonna have challenges the rest of the time you're doing jujitsu. There's still gonna be somebody who chokes the fuck out of you, no matter how much work you put in. And that's the beautiful thing about it. I sent you that quote the other day from Anthony Bourdain. He said, he was like, I don't know if I'm ever going to get my black belt, but I love jujitsu. And, what was the words that he said?
Like it's not gonna make me like better, than anyone else or smarter. It might make him smarter, but at least he, gets to grow and learn in something that matters to him and stuff, something like that.
yeah, he said, I enjoy doing something that I can suck at a little bit less every day.
Yeah.
Just the challenge of getting better at something every day, you know?
Yeah. And I think that's applicable to life, right? How many areas of our life do we seek like, ah man, if I had more money, that would be our shortcut, right? To less stress or this and that. And then when you seek material things, as your shortcut, what happens? You got billionaires going and hanging out with monks trying to get their peace of mind back, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have billions of dollars and yet they can't sleep at night. Stuff like that. And that's where it's like the trick. That's the trick of belt promotion and life, that we're trying to seek shortcuts or comfort, or we're like waiting once and for all. Once I get to this, then it'll be over and I'll be free to just continue on in jiu-jitsu as like the best. It's like, no, you just hit level 4, dude. You're a black belt, but you're at level 4, and there's like an infinite, the levels never end. And you're
Yep.
like, oh, well, I've just gotten started. And that's what I've been learning from coach, because I'll go and take my stepson and he'll do his class, and watching him teach the kids is also very informative and teaches you something. We're learning how to learn. Coach always says that you got to learn how to learn. And I'm like, ooh, man, I got to learn how to study jujitsu. I got to be a student. How do I do that? How do you, it's take your homework home and you study and you work on the problems, and then you go home or you go to school and you take the test, right? That's where you apply the knowledge that you were practicing. And it's like, how do I take that learner approach to jiu-jitsu? And now I'm a blue belt. That's a new container. It's like I went from pre-algebra to calculus or whatever, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
So how do I value and step into the learner mindset with this new belt? Because with it, I'm sure the new the blue belts, when they see me get a new blue belt, like, all right, time for his ass whooping.
Mm-hmm.
It's like,
Oh
uh-oh,
yeah.
here we
That's the
go.
truth,
Time
man.
to turn it
That,
up, right?
dude, my first day of that's one of my blue belt training partners. My first day at training as a blue belt, he fucking turned it up. He turned it up. I've rolled with him all this time, and on all of a sudden, I was like, "Oh fuck!" He was like, "You're a blue belt now." I was like, "Oh shit, let's go." You know, and then imagine getting the, like you were saying, there's no, oh, when I get this, because there's people who do that shit. When I get here, I know a guy who got his black belt and quit jujitsu, man. He was teaching, he was good dude. Obviously I won't say his name, but he went all the way to black belt and then he quit because he was doing it for the prize. And I mean, he's the type of dude who lives a life of just like doing things for money, doing things for, what society sees it as. So he put in all that work and then he don't do jujitsu anymore because that's the real fucking challenge. Imagine the day you imagine getting your black belt and you step on a mat and there's 30 motherfuckers and all of them are fucking lower belts below you. You gotta be able to handle everybody in that motherfucker. You know what I mean? That's the pressure. The pressure doesn't start till you get your fucking black belt, I
Yeah.
think. You know what I mean? The real pressure.
And that's what I've talked to my professor about that. I'm like, man, what's it like to have to always come in here and you're in charge? You're the one that's like guiding all of us. Like he's always got to be on. He's in, and you roll with him, and he does 6-7 rolls, and he's not even sweating. It's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
wait, what the? I'm dragging, and I'm like pouring sweat, and I'm like, what is happening here? He
Mm-hmm.
doesn't sweat. He's not like out of breath when we're done with the roll. He just gets up. He might fix his belt, but that's about it. Because I'm
Yeah.
like yanking on it and like, he's not out of breath. He's just like, okay. And I'm like, dang. And he's like, just when you watch him, there's times in advanced class where he shows more, advanced moves, but it's almost like he's a little kid just talking about some like, fun thing he just learned.
Yeah.
You can tell like he's almost like a little kid in a candy store just talking about some new cool toy he got.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm like, what the heck? So we're starting this journey to get to a finish line, which there is none, but really what it is a starting line to become a different learner, a higher level learner. And that's all he is. He just loves learning and growing, you can tell, and then sharing it with others. So it's powerful.
Hey, that sounds similar to the white belt I'm looking at. He
Yeah.
loves learning, he loves growing, and he loves sharing it with others. That's what we're doing. It doesn't take 10 years to be able to love to learn, love to share, and be passionate. I guarantee you, when your coach or my coach was at this level, they were passionate about it and they loved learning it and they loved sharing it. And they just kept doing that for
Yeah.
years. And now they're doing it. That's what they do for their life, and it's awesome. Anybody who's doing what they love and it's put that much time into it and they get to wake up and do the shit they want to do, regardless of what it is that you're doing, I got major respect for that. That's what we all should be doing. I think jujitsu translates into everything, in that aspect, anything in life. And I probably say that same sentence every episode. Jiu-jitsu translates into every aspect of your life. But
Yeah.
whatever it is you're passionate about. You see, I don't think I've ever come across something in my life that I've been, because they say, you find something you love and you put your heart into it, and then you put time into it and it doesn't feel like you're, what would you do if you weren't getting paid? What would you put your time into if you could do something for free? And I'm like, fuck jujitsu. I would do this shit for free, and I'm doing it for free. I do it for free right now. I fucking work my ass off at it for free because I enjoy doing it. And that's how you should feel about anything that you're doing in your life. Like, you should get to the point where that's what your life is based. Everything you do in your life should be things that you love doing. If you can build a life around that, that's when you're building a successful, happy life.
Yeah.
And it's not easy. It's not easy to do that.
Exactly. And that's the part I was going to add is it's exactly what we're talking about with the belt promotion too, though. Don't expect it to be like with comfort and freedom and like floatiness. Like you're going to be like, ah, crap. Like now, hey, you got your own business. Now what? You still need to show up. You still need to produce. You still need to put in the work, right? Just like,
Yeah,
hey, you got your blue belt. Now what?
exactly.
Hey, you
It's
got a gold medal at a tournament. Now what? Like, how are you going to improve from that? Where's the growth in that?
and there's no finish line, and that's the
Yeah.
mindset to keep whatever the fuck you're doing in your life. Remember, there's no golden ticket that's going to create happiness in your life. There's no finish line to it. If you love what you're doing and you have a goal, keep working at that motherfucker. Just keep going. There's no limit to where you can get with it. It's like now with my other podcast, the Increase Life podcast. Okay, I have this podcast. I'm ready to get it going now. I have everything set up. Okay, now what, motherfucker? I got to cold contact all these, like, all these people that I want to bring onto my show, like high level authors and coaches and people who are out there talking to millions of people. I got to hit these motherfuckers up. There's always a challenge. And then when I hit them up, I got to interview them. I got to be prepared for that interview. And then once I'm prepared for the interview, I got to cut up that content and and share my shit with the world. It's a never ending fucking process. But the beautiful thing about it is when you put in your time to the things you love and you go through those challenges and you just keep your head down and keep doing it, you look up and you'll be surprised at how far you've come. And you look at all the people who aren't making any fucking movements in their life, the people who are sitting around just being reactive to life, being victims to life, who never fucking advance. And it looks like you've just been on a fucking elevator in comparison to the masses, and then you become a leader, and then you become someone who can influence, someone who can help people. And then it becomes our responsibility, after we put in the work, to help those people to get out of their hopeless life, their lives of quiet desperation. And that's what this podcast is too, man. Like, we're not some fucking experts. We never claim to be. We have a jiu-jitsu podcast. We're fucking beginners. We're not even, we're just sharing our journey in hopes that somebody else might be inspired to start jiu-jitsu, or somebody who's doing jiu-jitsu might hear something that'll give them some fire to keep going, or to give somebody some hope. And that's anybody who's listening. That's all of our responsibilities. If there's not just a chosen few who are here to inspire other people, all of us need to face our challenges, face our fears, move up the mountain of our own life, whatever that may be. And as we do it, be a light for other people around us. And if you're not doing that, you're wasting your time here on earth. If you're not doing that, if you're just letting yourself rot away in selfishness and self-centeredness in your own little box, and worry just about your own self and your own ego and your own gains and your own goals, I don't want to offend, but you're wasting your time here on earth. You have to find something that you enjoy, and then you have to move toward it, and you have to face the challenges, and you have to share it. You have to share it with the people around you, man. And that's just my perspective on the thing.
And not expect for it to get to some place and then the hardship's over. Like, there's always going to be problems. You just want to upgrade your life to get better problems.
Exactly.
Become a person that knows how to handle problems. I heard the other day, I was listening to a coaching podcast, and they were talking about, like, and when I went from $0 in my coaching business to 100,000 or 300,000 or whatever, he's like, the problems, there was the same set of 10 problems. They were just different problems. It's like, there's still 10 problems that I had to work through. It's just now I have a set of 10 different problems to work through. And it's the same thing with a blue belt. It's like, oh, I just got a new handful of problems that I need to find the answers to.
Yes.
Same thing for life. Like, now that you have, and a lot of times, and I see this in my marriage, or I see this in my, coaching, and the fears that come up for me doing that. Because you go from being a cop, and then now we have to step into some new, you're a podcaster or whatever you want to call yourself, these new roles, right? We have to develop a mindset, a belief system that allows us to step into that without blocking and holding ourselves back with our own doubts and fears. Like we say, comes up, whether you're doing jiu-jitsu or whatever. It's really about, like, understanding it's a new set of problems. That doesn't mean it's bad. That doesn't mean it's, scary or deadly or anything that our brain thinks it is. It's a new set of problems, and I haven't figured out the answers yet. But the skill sets I use to answer the old set of problems that I had are still relevant. It still counts, right? Like, knowing your history. I just started reading that Opening the Closed Guard, that book for jiu-jitsu. It's really cool. And it was like about the history of jiu-jitsu, and it's really nice, like a really cool book. So I just started reading it. So I'm excited about that. And it's just like, you got to know your history. You got to know where you come from so you can really understand where you're at. And I think that's powerful, so understanding, oh, cool, new set of problems doesn't mean that I'm incapable. It's just a new set of problems. And how do we approach this with a better mindset that doesn't take away our abilities from the past, our history of problem solving? Because we wouldn't have these new set of problems if we didn't solve the old ones, and really realizing that if I make it about me and I let my ego take over and start having doubts because of, oh, what is this going to do to me? How is this going to embarrass me, or how am I going to fail? Right? You get very tunnel vision, like I did in my tournament. I still feel like I got very tunnel vision. I missed a lot of opportunities that I could have got, even though it worked out well. There's still room to grow, and the tunnel vision part of it. for me, it's like, oh, wait a minute, but who could this impact? Who could this be a blessing to? Like I had one buddy reach out, Daniel. He's a white belt, 4-stripe white belt with me, and we've been training together for a long time. And he reached out and said, "Man, there's some your podcast is really great. You guys say some really great stuff. It really sounds like your buddy Jackson's been through it too, and he really understands. And like we're relating with people when we don't even realize it. Whether it's through PTSD and our experiences with that, whether it's through jujitsu and growing in the belts or whatever it might be, it's relatable. It's like relatable, and that's what we want. That's what we want, that connection. And I think you need that as you progress through life, because it's not going to get easier. Stop looking for the shortcut. Stop wanting and desiring it to be easier, because that's creating suffering. Like pain is going to be a part of this journey in life, no matter what. But the suffering is optional, because the suffering is the meaning we place on the pain. That's how you screw yourself. Like, oh man, I'm suffering because I'm suffering. Oh, I'm sad because I'm sad. Well, why double it up? Why would you do that? It's like going to jujitsu and like, oh, my arm's fine, but I'm not going to use it. I'll just try to do it without my arm. It's like, well, good luck. It doesn't really make sense. Why would you do that?
Yeah.
And
And
that's where I see how this is kind of applicable to the stuff.
yeah, man. And the 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 challenges are what stop most people from advancing,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it's just, I'm sure a huge percentage of the time people face challenges and then they just change directions.
Yeah.
And what jujitsu is teaching me is, and this is something I've had to learn, because there's a lot of things in life I've started and I haven't finished because of fear, because of doubt, whatever it may be. And what jujitsu is teaching me is, man, don't worry about the fucking outcome. Just keep showing up. Keep showing up. Keep putting one foot in front of the other and keep showing up. And the progress will come. You'll get to where you're going, and I can take that lesson into anything. It's like I have it in my pocket. I have this little token in my pocket of success that I've taken from jiu-jitsu. Keep showing up and you can succeed at anything. If I keep showing up to jiu-jitsu, I'm going to get better. You know, I'm going to face every hurdle that I face. I'll clear that motherfucker if I just keep showing up. But you just got to be able to take the ass whooping, literally and figuratively. You got to be willing to take the ass whooping in whatever it is you're doing.
I think like a life ass whooping is people around you not supporting your dreams or telling you, oh, you got this, keep going, because you're not going to have that through every aspect of your life. The people that are closest to you aren't going to be the ones that are supporting your dreams most of the time. They're going to be like, what? No, because they're projecting that that's going to be dangerous to them, or maybe they're afraid of doing what you're trying to do, and so that puts them in a fearful state, so they tell you not to do it, and that's just
Yeah.
their projection on you. And so you're not always going to hear encouragement. And thankfully, even though you get ass whoopings in jujitsu, it's always encouragement afterwards. It's like, hey man, you're doing great, keep it up. I always tell people that. I'm always like, hey, great job. Even if I got a submission on them, hey, great job. They fought the whole time, they learned something, guaranteed. And that's why we're there. And so with life, it's like, don't expect to get applause throughout this journey either. Most of the time you're going to hear like, you can't do that. You're like, oh fuck, shake that off, right?
Yeah.
Keep going, keep that moving
And
forward.
that's why I can't stress enough, man. What one lesson I've learned is, and you hear a lot of people say this, but it's really important to be around and surround yourself with people who encourage you, man. People who are encouragers,
Yeah.
because I've been turned in other directions by doubters as well, on different projects and things that I've done in life. People close to me who don't believe in me, and that's made me doubt myself when didn't have as much strength internally. Maybe at that time, I was depending on other people's thoughts to dictate where I was going. And it's really important to, if you have negative people around you, you gotta put up some type of wall. For me, I just don't. For me, I just won't have anybody negative around me. I'm trying to clear my life of everybody that's negative and only talk to people who are encouraging. Because if you have a vision you're working toward, you have to have those. You have to have it. It's you have to have people around you who support you. And if you don't, you can't have people who are fucking negative around you. It's
And I
really
think
they make it really fucking difficult.
I think we've experienced that on a personal level. I think we were just talking about this lately, like the related, like how connected our lives are and our journeys have been. It's really been a blessing because, you know, you have days where you're really doubtful or challenged, and I have days where I'm doubtful and challenged, and we're there for each other, and we remind each other, hey, you remember when you helped me through this? And I have another buddy, Giuseppe, that, man, he's just got my back. You know, he's just really supportive and really kind, and, you know, totally like, hey, I've been there, man. Or, hey, remember when you told me this? Or, and I'm like, geez, man, like every time you're there supporting someone, before you know it, you know, you're going to be in a new phase of life. The brown belt Ryan told me this yesterday. He's like, you know what? The way I see it is, you know, we don't realize how good we got it when we're really in a good spot in life. We forget that it's temporary and it's going to change. And then when you get in a bad time, like, you know, we were talking about pregnancy and stuff like that, you know, like with their wives and stuff. And he's like, man, I was like, you know, this too shall pass. Because, you know, you forget when you're in a hard spot, it's like, oh, this is never going to end. This is the worst ever. But then when you're in a really good spot and things are just firing on all cylinders, you're like, you forget that this is fleeting just as well. And so just remember, like, nothing's guaranteed in life. Nothing's going to stay that way. Everything's changing like the weather. And just learn to be someone with whether you're on bottom or on top or whatever is going on in the role, get comfortable. Like Ryan was showing me how to like pressure pass through the shoulder and do this and keep real like close to the body and do it. And I'm like, man, that's uncomfortable. He's like, yeah. He's like, I've gotten really comfortable from being on bottom. I can really get smashed on bottom and I'm good. But now being on top and trying to pressure pass and do that, I'm like, ooh, I'm not comfortable. Like you're
Yeah.
getting your head, like your elbows smushed against your face. And it's like, whoa. Like, you know,
It-
we're not really that good looking anyway. So I'll just get uglier. Who cares? Yeah,
and just like you said, to add on to that, I would say, because you said get comfortable, but I would say get comfortable with get comfortable with being uncomfortable, because you know I wouldn't want to tell I wouldn't want the advice I wouldn't want to tell somebody the advice, hey, be comfortable, you know, hey, let's learn to be comfortable, you
yeah,
know. So I would say teach yourself to be unwavering in the face of adversity, you know, teach yourself to be comfortable with being uncomfortable, because that's where every portion of growth that you're ever going to experience in your life comes in the unknown, in the uncomfortable area, you know. And a
yeah.
lot of time the fear just stops us from stepping into the uncomfort,
Yeah, good
you
catch on
know.
the wording. Because really, it's like going to jujitsu and you go to the class, you're like, no, I'm gonna roll tonight and it's gonna suck. Like, and that's one thing that I've learned about life is like, why are we so adverse to the suck? You know, it's like healing sucks. You know, PTSD, you gotta heal. You gotta work through this shit. You know, and being in a marriage and everything else, it's like I got this new stuff that I gotta work on and heal and figure out now. And I'm like, oh, this sucks. And I'm like, well, pick your suck, man. Like, do you want something that sucks and it's worth it? Like healing, it sucks, but it's worth it. Just like being depressed and being stuck in that state of mind sucks too. And if you want to stay in that and you don't want to heal because it sucks, okay, well, you pick your suck. But I
Yeah.
don't think depression's worth it. That just takes away an experience of life. Like it's like never getting to see the sun. That sucks, man. Even if I have a rainy day, one thing I can count on is on the other side of those clouds is the sun. And I can enjoy the sun when it's up and I can, you know, endure or at least learn from the discomfort of the rain, you know, or the challenging time. And if
Yeah.
you're not so attached to one over the other and you just go with the flow, you can kind of find your way through life and not be avoiding the discomfort that is always necessary.
Yeah. And that's another thing with like depression, which I see that a lot of people are, you know, struggle with, that is that same lesson, man. You just got to keep showing up, because depression will be like, it'll be like you're stuck walking through mud and shit, and you just want to give up. You don't want to do shit, you
Oh
know.
yeah.
And you just have to keep showing up, whatever it is that you're doing, just keep showing up, and shit will change for you. Shit will transform for you. There's a light at the end of the tunnel, but you got to walk through the fucking tunnel. You know, Winston Churchill said, you know, if you're going through hell, keep going, you know. And
And I felt that, man. I mean, one of the biggest accomplishments of my day back then when I was depressed was drinking a cup of water. Like I did it. That was as much as I could accomplish. And as crazy as that sounds, That's true. It's true for me. And even now, I mean, today I was telling you, hey, man, I'm not feeling it. I'm not in a good mindset. I'm struggling, with this, that, and the other in my personal life. And I was like, no, that doesn't dictate if I show up. Just like, hey, I don't feel like going to jujitsu. It doesn't dictate whether I go or not.
Yeah.
Do what you know, not what you feel, right? Like, I know that I'm a better person from going to jujitsu. What the hell do I need to feel like being there? Take an ass whooping, get your head on straight. It'll straighten you out,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm here, I'm doing it, and that, don't feel like you need to be 100% all the time and shining and glowing, and you can still show up and give your best. And I hope
Yeah.
that inspires someone or shows, like, meets them where they're at. You don't have to, it's not like you and I are perfectly like healthy mentally and all this stuff and we got it all figured out to be able to do this podcast. Nope, we struggle every single day, yet here we are.
Every motherfucking day. I go to jujitsu. Let's make that shit clear. I go to jujitsu to keep my fucking mental healthy. I go to jujitsu. That's one of the main reasons I'm in Brazilian jiu-jitsu, man, is to keep my mental health at peak performance. Because if I don't, I struggle with a lot of shit, man. I struggle with depression. I struggle with, anxiety, depression more, man. There's fear, there's doubts, there's and I think we all face that shit because of this, just because of the world we live in, man. We all face those things, and jujitsu has been the medicine. That's been the medicine for my mental health, most definitely. I think I've mentioned it before, but you mentioned it as well. I've struggled with depression a lot since I left the police department, and I know a lot of people can relate with that. I don't want anyone listening to think this is just for cops who have retired and have PTSD, man. This podcast is for anybody who wants to, find success and happiness in their life, and if you like jujitsu, that's good. And if you haven't started jujitsu, you should, and, but yeah, that's the main reason I do it. And with doing that, with come a lot of other benefits, of course, getting in better shape, feeling good all the time, meeting cool people, learning something, challenging yourself, gaining confidence. A lot of shit comes with it. But I know, however I'm feeling that day, if I get into that class and I, mix it up and I learn something and I get a good sweat going and I get beat up a little bit and I get humbled and I get to maybe humble somebody else, I'm gonna walk out of that motherfucker feeling amazing, and it happens every goddamn time. Every time I walk in there, I'm feeling amazing, man. Or I'm sorry, every time I walk out of there, I feel like $1,000,000. And that's kind of why we made this podcast, to tell other people, hey man, like if you want to feel amazing and you want to feel like $1,000,000, go train some Brazilian jiu-jitsu. You're never, go do it. If I said it the last episode, if you're able-bodied and you want something to do that will make your life feel better and make you feel better as a human being and help you in all aspects, go train some motherfucking jujitsu, man. Get in there. It's for everybody. It's for everybody. You don't have to be a fucking competitor, a high level fucking pro. There's a lot of dads in there, moms, all walks of life are in there, and you can go at your own pace, at your own level, and it'll work wonders for your life. You'll get in shape, you'll feel better, you'll get confident, your business will do better, your relationships will do better, everything will grow because you're training jujitsu, man. So yeah.
Yeah, I think there's, able-bodied is very open and subjective there too, because I see guys that are really like, different shapes, sizes, and everything in there. So, like you were saying, there's no one size that fits all. You don't have to be a certain athletic build or any of that. It's truly like all encompassing,
Yeah, big
and
time.
it will change you more ways than just learning the skill sets of jiu-jitsu. It just will.
Yeah.
And I think that's,
That's
we're all going through it. Never forget that. We're going through this human experience together, not alone.
yeah.
And it can be very isolating. Just like you asked me, you send me a text, hey, you doing okay, man? And I'm like, no, I'm
Last
not.
night.
And how true is that though? Like, what do we normally say? I'm fine. I'm great. Oh, good. Oh, cool. How about you? Like, no, let's be real. Cause if we were rolling together and you're like, hey, how you doing? I'm like, my roles would show you, like, you're not here, man. You're not like focused, are you? You would know if we were training partners and you work together, just like, you and I are partners. We work together a lot. We talk a lot. We interact a lot in life. When I'm off, you can tell when I'm not on. and we're there for each other. And that's what I want this podcast to be for, for whatever reason. Maybe it's this blue belt myth, or this journey or mystery of why blue belts disappear once they become blue belts, or whatever it is. Maybe we can attack that a little bit and shed some light on it, so that the next guy that promotes to blue belt feels supported and connected and relatable to what we experienced.
Yeah.
And he sticks in there a little longer and goes a little further and gets more out of it. That's what I hope. And like we talked about, like D, my buddy D from Jiu-Jitsu, he's a blue belt, and we talked about getting him on here and chatting with him and talking to your buddy, and
Steve,
and he,
yeah.
what's cool about D is he just challenged me to do a triathlon with him.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, what? I can't do that. Like, but it's like, well,
damn.
maybe I can. I don't know. And so I've never tried to do it. And he's like, nah, you got to try, man. And I'm like, well, hell. So it looks like I'll be doing that.
So you got to get a bike or something like that?
I've never done any of this, but
that sounds awesome though, man. That sounds dope.
I'm excited.
Right on, man.
It sounds like a good challenge, and that is a byproduct of like getting in better shape and improving my endurance. That will make my jiu-jitsu better,
Big time. You got to start. Yeah, that's awesome, man. That sounds pretty cool, man. Tell me more about that as you find out, or maybe if we have D on here, he can talk about it. So I think we should have a couple of those guys on at least to start. We got 2 blue belt guys that from both of our gyms, one from each of our gyms, who I think can shed some light on. They're both passionate about jiu-jitsu too, and I think they can shed some light. So this is your call out, D and Steve. Calling D and Steve. You're being called out to come onto our podcast. So now you have to do it. So
I guess we should
have you come on here. And no, we're not asking them. We're just letting them know they're coming on here to share their perspectives on blue belt and what you're going through right now and what they think about the whole system. And one other thing I wanted to touch on is just to go a little deeper into somebody who maybe hasn't started jiu-jitsu, and if you're listening, you want one of your friends to start, let them hear this episode. But a prime example is I have a buddy, and he's like pretty overweight, man. And or I would say an acquaintance, pretty overweight. And I've been telling him to start jiu-jitsu. And he always says, and man, jiu-jitsu, I can see it. Jiu-jitsu would be huge for this guy's life. Every area of his life would improve big time. He needs it. He needs to get in there, but he's overweight. And give me a year. I'm going to get in shape. And then I'll be in there with jiu-jitsu. But for now, I'm doing golf. And I'm like, bro, or he tells me things like, well, golf is like jiu-jitsu. Like the way you like jiu-jitsu, that's how I like golf. I'm like, it's different, bro. It's fucking different. You're not going to get in shape doing fucking golf. You're out there drinking beer, driving around and shit, eating hot dogs. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's different. But it doesn't matter if you're overweight. That's how you're going to fucking get in shape. Like, if you're overweight, obviously there's some internal shit you got to deal with. Overweight isn't just by luck. You have internal shit you need to deal with. And you come into a jiu-jitsu class, the internal shit is going to come up, and you're going to exercise the internal shit so that the external things begin to take form and your life is going to change. So if you are overweight, man, there's nothing better that you can do is get into jiu-jitsu, man. So,
or depressed,
or all that stuff. Yeah.
Or, whatever it might be. We all have our internal shit. We all do.
Everybody.
It comes in different forms or fashion, and we're all in this together. So, and that could be a challenge. If you're listening to this, just like you and I did, let's share it with 3 people. Find 3 people in your life that would benefit from jiu-jitsu, or maybe hear this podcast and go, oh man, I want to try this. Or, oh man, that's right. I got out of jiu-jitsu because I was just like, I didn't know where to go, or I didn't have the support, and maybe they'll get back in. Find someone in your life that you can share this podcast with. That's a challenge.
Beautiful. The William Dennis Soul Rollers 3 people challenge. Find 3 people who can benefit, who need some, maybe lose weight, need to battle depression, need something in their life, are losing hope, whatever the fuck it is, need some light. Share this podcast with them and tell them to start jiu-jitsu.
And if you don't do that, then you have to run the triathlon or do the triathlon with me.
Yeah. And then let us know that you did it. If you do it, we'll see if anybody does it, Share this with 3 people. Cool. Yeah, man, that'd be dope. So, right on, man. Well,
let's do it. I got to go eat. I got to get these kids fed. So let's get it on next week. And I'm excited now. We called out those blue belts. Probably get on at the academy now.
Yeah.
Calling out on the podcast, I'm going to choke you out. But
try it, Steve, motherfucker. Try it, Steve. Yeah, yeah, man, that should be good. We'll have a couple interviews and just sit back and we can ask questions and talk and
Yeah, that'll
bullshit.
be fun. That'll be
So
fun.
right on. Thanks for listening. Hit us up on Instagram at the Will Dennis and at the IncreaseLife, and subscribe to this podcast. Share it. Let somebody know about it. And yeah, thank you for listening. We appreciate it. And William, I'll talk to you soon. Love you, man. And yeah, go train.
Yep. Love you, man. Talk to you
All
soon.
right. Yep. Talk to you later, man.